Hi, I'm Keith from Houston, Texas, and I call in the living soil, the microbes, and the fungi that weave a net throughout the soil, connecting both earth with trees, trees with animals, animals with humans. And I call in my, excuse me, my fairy sage, Timoria, and her daughter, Salath. Timoria, who I said earlier is my sage and a mentor, what she advocates is, and she says that everything that everyone is saying is spot on, about the importance of awakening now. What she would add to that is to each of us individually awaken in such a way that we're balanced, because there's many different ways to awaken. And the new relationship that humanity is being offered has to come from that space of balance. And that can mean many different things to many different people. So it's important for us as individuals who are sort of like stepping out from the consensus is to find within us that balance. And what does that mean as far as for each of us? And so what she advocates is to look at balance, not just from the physical perspective, but also the spiritual perspective, the mental perspective, and the emotional perspective, as well as the physical. And those are 4 layers of understanding that can happen. And so it's very, very important to define that for oneself, because as we do that and we develop that and nurture that, that then becomes a field of resonance that we project out as individuals into the society that others begin to pick up in their own way. Another layer is that, and this is something that she's been teaching me over the past year, is to separate out sort of the awareness that Earth is a consciousness, and it is, but also Earth is sort of, it's a part of the nature. But at the higher levels of a relationship with Earth is to recognize her as a consciousness, as a living entity. So you have the nature spirits or the elements. And so you have earth, fire, water, air. But then you also have Earth, the consciousness which encompasses those elements within her. And so there's a diversity of relationship that we each can build when we can begin to start to see kind of like the differences that are there. And it's not a separation of it, it's actually a co-creative process that we go through. So we can hold those 2 levels of understanding of what it means to have a co-creative relationship with Earth. And so it's important to sit with that. It's important to awaken to that knowledge, to that information, and in however ways that each of us chooses to do it, it's up to us. But it has to be comfortable, and it has to be a relationship that's built on balance. And balance is a sense. It's what they, one of the things that it's what they call one of the bridging senses. And so so balance, in a way, takes us from the 5 physical senses into the 7 unfamiliar senses. Now, balance works with concert imagination. So in order to have balance, we have to have imagination. And that is where we can allow ourselves to begin to imagine a new level of balance. One way of imagining balance is to think about it as a teeter-totter, okay? You know, this is very well balanced. I can see this, the balance of scales, those kinds of things. That's one level of imagination. But then there are other levels of imagination where that sense of balance can bring about groundedness. And in order to move into a quote, right relationship with Earth, we have to be grounded. And we have to be grounded in, you know, not just that physical sense of groundedness, but in the groundedness of our beliefs, in the groundedness of right emotion, in the groundedness of right thought. And it's sort of like what the ancient indigenous tribes have always said: Mother Earth is the source, not just the resource, but the source. So when you start to think of it in that perspective, she says, you begin to actually tap in to this seminal level of balance for ourselves.